Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome. We're going to be getting started in just a few minutes, and I'm very excited about the presentation that we have in front of us today. But before I turn this over to our panelists at East Brunswick Public Library, I'd like to walk you through just a couple logistics for using the GoToWebinar. The first thing that I always like to do is test the technology and make sure that you guys are able to hear me okay. And also I want to make sure that you are able to find your GoToWebinar control panel. It should look like this little square you're seeing on the screen here. And one thing that you'll note is there is an icon to raise your hand. If you can go ahead and click that icon to raise your hand, that will let me know that you guys are able to hear me and that we could go ahead and move on to the next steps. So wonderful. I'm seeing some hands going up there. Looking for a few more. I want to make sure nobody's missing out on anything. So again, if you can locate your GoToWebinar control panel and raise your hand, that will let me know that all is well. If you don't see this whole window, look for just a little orange arrow. It might be pointing to either the left or right side of your screen. That means your control panel is collapsed, and you can go ahead and click that arrow to open it up, and that way you'll be able to find the button to raise your hand. This is important because there are some things that you need to use the GoToWebinar control panel for as we're going through the presentation. First thing is we have over 300 people registered for this webinar, and so it's important that we keep everyone's phone lines muted. Otherwise, the background noise would just be horrendous. But we still want to be able to engage with you throughout the webinar and give you time to ask questions or maybe share your own stories. And so you'll be using the questions section on the GoToWebinar control panel to communicate with us. So if you have a question, you can enter it there. If you have a story that you'd like to share or an experience you've had at your library, please feel free to enter it into that question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. At the end of the presentation then, we'll go ahead and read out questions for our panelists, as well as share any stories that you may have shared with us. The other section you'll find in there is called handouts, and it should say that there are 2 handouts in there right now. If you click the little down arrow next to handouts, it will open up and you should see a PDF version of today's presentations, so you can have a copy of the slides, as well as a certificate of completion for this webinar if any of you should need continuing education units. You can go ahead and download that. It is set up as an Adobe form, so it will open in like Adobe Reader as any other PDF would, but there's going to be a light blue box in there where you can type in your name, and then you can go ahead and some computers let you save the file that way. Other times, if you can't save the file, use the print feature and tell it to print to PDF, and that will save it as a new file with your name on the certificate. If anyone has problems downloading those handouts throughout the presentation, please let us know and we will get them to you via email afterwards. Okay, so one more sound check. Just making sure again that we have had tons of people join since I started talking. So just want to make sure everybody can find the GoToWebinar control panel. If you can and you have not already, please go ahead, click the hand button to raise your hand and let me know that you can hear me. And then take note of the 2 sections on the GoToWebinar control panel that say questions. This is where you are going to communicate with us. If you have a question or a story or experience to share, you can enter it in there. And then you should also see something called handouts, where you will find 2 different PDFs that you can go ahead and download. I do see a question in here now saying that there's no icon for the PDFs. If you do not see handouts, try clicking on View, and it should list handouts in the little drop-down menu. Click on it to put a check mark next to it, and that should give you the ability to view that section. Click on the link and go ahead and download those handouts. Again, if you have problems with that, go ahead and let us know via email after the webinar, and we'll get those over to you. All right, so with all of that business taken care of, I would like to introduce you today to our presenters. In order to do that, I need to, nope, that's the wrong one. I need to bring my screen over and start it. Okay, so today we are going to hear from the staff members at East Brunswick Public Library. East Brunswick started with Tutor.com about a year, maybe year and a half ago. And I have to tell you, they absolutely blew us out of the water. In terms of how quickly they got their program up and running and the success in adoption that they have seen throughout their community, it has been amazing. And a lot of that comes from the very unique ways that they are promoting the service and making sure all different kinds of patrons are aware of the benefits it provides. And so today they're going to talk to us about how Tutor.com helps them serve their culturally diverse and demographically changing community. So I'd like to introduce you first to Karen Perry from East Brunswick Public Library. And Karen's going to go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you, Susan. As Susan said, I'm Karen Perry. I am the Manager of Information Services at the East Brunswick Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar. I wanted to come up with a title that will kind of capture the essence of what makes East Brunswick unique and different as a library that promotes Tutor.com. So I came up with a title, How a Single Branch Library Creatively Uses Tutor.com to Benefit a Culturally Diverse and demographically changing community. I thought that really captured East Brunswick. We are a single branch library located right in the center of New Jersey. We serve about 48,000 residents. And I have to say, many months ago, when Joanne had asked me about doing this, and we had started to plan this, my first thought when Joanne asked me was, why us? And then Joanne went and told me how impressed they were with our usage statistics in the first year and how it had far exceeded what they had expected, especially coming from a single branch library. So I thought, well, that's really great, and I'm really happy to know that. I also look at this as a chance to give back. Our library is very concerned and passionate about giving back to other libraries. When we find something that works, when we find a best practice that works, we feel it is our obligation to help other libraries and librarians share those best practices, because when one library succeeds, we all succeed as a whole. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about our experiences. I just do want to say one thing. As I'm not a believer in one-size-fits-all libraries. I've been a librarian long enough to know that libraries are all different. All communities are different, the cultures they serve, the age groups, the demographics. This is our story of East Brunswick. But what I hope as we go through the slides is that you all will see little bits and pieces of things that you can do to build your own story with Tutor.com, because it is such a unique database or service. There's really nothing else like it. So next slide, please. Before we begin, I'm going to ask my presenters here to state their name and title and just like 1 or 2 sentences about what they do. I do want to say that you will see Chris Barnes in the far right corner. Chris was interrupted his attendance today because baby Charlotte decided to arrive 2 weeks early. He had all good intentions. So anyway, I will be speaking on behalf of Chris. But I'm going to start with Jess, and then Martha and Suzanne will say their name, title, and just a few words about what they do.
Hi, I'm Jessica Schneider. I'm the teen librarian here at the East Brunswick Public Library, and I work in the Adult Services Department, so I work with the teens, and I also work with a lot of the adults here.
Hi, I'm Martha Hess. I'm an Information Services librarian here. I work at the reference desk, and I also do career coaching in the Career Connections program, and various other duties.
Like all of us. Hi, I'm Suzanne Klein. I'm one of the youth services librarians here at the library. I work on programming for families with children of all ages, and I'm also a member of our consumer health team.
Great. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, why did we choose Tutor.com, and why did we choose an online database that offers a tutoring service? Well, to really understand how we came about to this, you really need to look at our country as a whole and then kind of drill down to the state of New Jersey and Central Jersey and the demographic makeup. The Pew Research Center publishes reports regularly on America's foreign-born population. And a recent report stated that there are major demographic shifts that are reshaping the United States. Our country is growing in population while becoming older and much more racially and ethnically diverse. Today, the United States has more immigrants than any other country in the world. There are 43.7 million people living in the United States today that were born in another country. We actually make up about 1/5 of the world's migrants. The population of immigrants in the United States is very diverse, and just about every country in the world is represented. Today, our immigrant population makes up nearly 14% of our population. That's 3 times what it was back in 1970. Today, immigrants in our country, 76% of them are legal immigrants, and 1 in 4 are unauthorized. The reason I say this is because libraries have and always will be places that serve everyone. We serve everyone equitably. We don't care about where you came from. We don't ask, and we don't tell. But it is something that we are passionate about, and our services are available to everyone in our community. Just a little bit about the demographic shifts in the United States. In the early 1900s, basically up until into the 1960s, Europeans were really the major immigrant group that came into the United States. They came from Germany, Ireland, Italians, fleeing Jews, up until about 1965, when the demographics began to change and the United States started to see more Latin Americans and Asians migrating to or immigrating to our country. This trend has continued, and it is continuing so much that they're saying by the year 2025 that Asians are actually going to surpass Hispanics as the major immigrating group. So that's a really interesting thing to know. And by Asian, we mean people coming from 20 countries in East and Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent, but most of them are Chinese, Indian, and Filipino origin. Now, to take this back to New Jersey, we are the 5th most ethnically diverse state in the country. We're behind California, #1, New York, Hawaii, and Florida. 20% of our residents or citizens in New Jersey are foreign-born. If you take that even further down, Middlesex County, where East Brunswick is located, right in the center of the state, is the most diverse county of all 21 counties in New Jersey. And East Brunswick is like a little microcosm of the state. We are highly, highly diverse. We have residents here from China, India, Egypt, Korea, Russia, Pakistan, Indonesia. In fact, our schools recently did a study that Suzanne, our children's librarian, was able to provide, that there are 42 languages spoken at home other than English by the students in our school system. That is phenomenal. The major languages in East Brunswick, the top 5 are Chinese, #1, Arabic, #2, Spanish, Urdu, which is the national language of Pakistan, and Russian. So this has really been, this diversity factor, the demographic shift has really been a driver in the interest and usage of Tutor.com. So that's our demographic aspect. If you look at this slide, you will see that the second slide, the orange slide, second from the left, talks about immigrant respect for learning and libraries. That is really something extremely unique and admirable that we see among our immigrant patrons that come in the library. They have a real respect for libraries and libraries as places of learning. Something interesting about New Jersey immigrants that I read the other day, the Rutgers-Eagleton Institute periodically does studies of our populations, and they actually said immigrants in New Jersey tend to be more highly educated than those living elsewhere in the country. So that's something, again, probably driving higher usage of Tutor.com. And within New Jersey, this is the Eagleton Institute report actually said that 48% of jobs in scientific and mathematical fields are held by immigrants who have master's degree or PhDs in New Jersey. So we are the 3rd highest state for H-1B visas behind California and New York, probably driven by New Jersey's high number of biotechnology firms and software startups. And we have the headquarters for Merck. We have the headquarters for Johnson & Johnson. You'll see that education is the gateway for assimilation. Immigrants have always looked to libraries as places to learn, places where they can get the knowledge that they can to feel like they're really part of the American society. So again, that's an important aspect unique to immigrant communities. Knowledge and access equals equity. There's nothing that levels the playing field more than having equal access to a tutor. There are many people, especially many of our new immigrants that come from Pakistan, that come from Indonesia, that come from Korea. We have Muslim and we have Arabic from Egypt. They cannot afford a private tutoring service. Private tutoring services in East Brunswick probably run about $2,000 or more. And those people will be marginalized. Those children will be marginalized without access to a tutoring service, someone that can help them. And of course, there's equal access to STEAM skills, science, technology, engineering. Then they throw in the arts and mathematics. They throw in the arts because people can't just have technology, science and technology skills. They're saying now that you need art, you need communication skills, you need to be able to write. They said that's what made Steve Jobs a genius. Not only was he great technically, but he knew how to communicate. He knew how to market. So being able to write and communicate are very important skills. And the last is that libraries are and always have been welcoming places where people come to us when they have a problem, when they need help, when they turn to the library. And I know Suzanne will talk about the kind of questions that we've had from parents throughout the years before we had Tutor.com, where people are so desperate for tutoring services to help their children. So people turn to us. We never judge people on their abilities or shortcomings, and that's what makes libraries such valuable and appreciated heart of the community. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Here at East Brunswick, we pride ourselves on being risk takers. We like to try new things, experiment, test. We like to retool, modify, and if it doesn't work, we like to try something else. At East Brunswick, we are big believers that libraries are not bound by walls and that our future and potential users will probably never pass through our front doors. So what we do is we go out very often, weekly in fact, at this library. So it's all about the marketing. It's all about leaving the nest, going out in the communities, and here at East Brunswick, you'll see us in schools. We go to schools, we go to fairs, we go to hospitals, we go to farmers markets, daycares, job fairs, senior centers. We're out and about. In fact, tomorrow we're going to into New Brunswick to a child early learning development center where they're doing a nutritional program for children. On the 7th of October, East Brunswick is going to have our big East Brunswick Day Fair, so we'll have a table there. We'll have pamphlets of all of our library services and resources, and of course, Tutor.com will be included among that. Again, it's all about getting out, and when you get out, you find your new audiences. We're always finding new people to serve, new users, new friends, and new library advocates. So that's one of the things that we're very passionate about. And again, it doesn't take any money. It just takes an excitement and a passion to get out and to really get to know your community. Next slide, please. And here we are at an East Brunswick Day. I think this was last year or the year before. And that's Sonal and Melissa and Aaron, and we have our table. And again, we put all of our really important things that we want to communicate to our residents. We have handouts on library services, like our passport services and all of our databases. We have our Tutor.com flyers that have been made up and our bookmarks. And then we give a little giveaways, and then Aaron plays games with the kids when they come. It's a lot of fun, and it's something we always look forward to. Next slide, please. So who do we want to reach? Well, we've really identified these cohorts that are most relevant to Tutor.com and who can benefit from Tutor.com. We have our elementary schools, our middle schools, high schools, our adult learners, our job seekers, and new immigrants. All of these cohorts, from young children through adult, can benefit by what they can obtain through Tutor.com. Next slide, please. So how will we reach them? Well, we've actually identified several ways where we reach our new users of Tutor.com. Some of them are pretty standard, like our library card campaign. And then some of them are kind of out of the box, where we leave the nest again and we go to back to school nights, and Suzanne will be talking and Jess will be talking about that. We work very closely with the high school and middle school and elementary school librarians, and they have message boards. So they've actually put things out to the teachers. Teachers communicate with their own little message boards. They've put articles for us in student newsletters. Of course, our library staff are the frontline marketers. It's important that staff know what Tutor.com is and how it can help the residents and identify those target audiences, because they're going to be your frontline and your best marketers. Here at East Brunswick, we have a career center. Your ESL and citizenship classes, and Martha will talk about that. Website and social media. Here at East Brunswick, we have a local television station. Not all libraries do, but some of them do. And we actually use our local television station to interview people. I know I had interviewed somebody from Tutor.com when we first started the service. But we also do press releases. We have a library newsletter that goes out electronically to several thousand people. So we're always trying to spread the word. And just this past Monday, I got a call from a library board member who asked me, like, just on the spur of the moment, she called and said, Karen, can you write up some high-level bullet points about Tutor.com, because I want to go to the town council tonight and talk about Tutor.com. So I was really excited that she presented Tutor.com to our mayor and to our town council, and our town council meetings are televised. So again, getting out and knowing your community and spreading the word is the key to success. And next slide, please. So your website obviously is your first most logical place. I mean, your website is your voice. to advertise what's new. And we have a really good web developer here at East Brunswick, Yuri. His name is Yuri. And he created a nice scrolling banner, which we took a screenshot here. So you can do something like this. And if you were to click on that, it would go into more depth about Tutor.com and what it is and how to access it. So that's one way. Next slide, please. We have our library newsletter, and then we have a part of our website called Library News, and we actually use this wonderful little Tutor.com video that we plugged into our website. It's any of you haven't seen this, it's a really great video. It's short and it really captures the heart of what Tutor.com is, how to use it, how it works. And so we've Yuri plugged that into our website under our library news, and it's really cute. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jess, and she's going to talk about teen usage and what's driving teen usage.
Hey, everybody. So as Karen has been talking about, we really have a pretty high academic expectations in this town. So the second most popular question I get from parents after do we have things to volunteer for at the library for their teens is we need tutoring. And unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, we cannot obviously recommend tutors that charge money for here at the library. And we used to do things in the past like homework help. Occasionally the teens have asked for me to set up some kind of peer tutoring, volunteer work for them. But those are really complicated things to set up, and we know from past experience that setting up peer tutoring is often about juggling schedules. And it's really a lot of extra work on our end that us as librarians do not have time to do. So having Tutor.com has really been a great help. I can recommend it to the parents, I can recommend it to the teens, and really the word of mouth has spread our usage incredibly. And as Karen was saying earlier, you know, we really have a lot of new immigrants in our community. They are not often able to help their children with their homework. So having Tutor.com has been a big asset there. And we are really pushing it to the teens. So we saw that from our stats that our highest usage was actually in 10th grade students. So the word is getting out. Like we said, we've attended some back to school nights. I was just at the high school library this morning and dropping off more Tutor.com flyers for them. The Tutor.com flyers go really quickly. And it's really great for me as a teen librarian to be able to point to this service to the parents and to the teens as an easy way for them to get help without me having to worry about juggling schedules. Yep, next slide.
Okay, and then I'm going to have Suzanne talk now about Tutor.com and the Youth Services Department.
So what you're looking at right now is a slide that shows a few samples of the bookmarks that we use, but we have others on themes like math, writing, general homework, and we use them placed around the Youth Services Department. We have them on our desk. We have them at some themed displays. I tend to use them a lot in-house when I'm talking with the customer about everything that Tutor.com has to offer. It's a really great way for people to have a little reminder they stick in their purse or in their tote bag so they can refer to it later and remember, oh yeah, the librarian told me about this great service. At outreach events, we tend to use them at back to school nights, at community days. We also have coordinating posters on the bulletin board and hanging around our department. And we have brochures that have more information about the subjects that are covered, the modes of instruction that are included, how Tutor.com works, how to set up an account. So the pros, I think, for using these bookmarks, the emojis are very cute. The kids love them. I have to say, I often see like 4-year-olds even grabbing them just because they're attracted to like how current and trendy the bookmarks look. I really like that they highlight the different subjects individually so that we can use them in very specific ways. We can use them on like a math display, for instance, which we always have in our department. We'll have a stack of just the math bookmarks there. And they're easy to make, they're inexpensive to print. We don't have to fold them like we have to fold the brochures, so it's easy for us to do. As far as cons for the bookmarks go, I think when we finish our current stash of them, we're going to add the word free right across the top somewhere in big, bold, capital letters. One thing that I have found is that they're really very effective to use in the building, but when I'm somewhere like a back to school night and I'm trying to get them in the hands of parents, people think that I'm selling something. And I really want them to understand this is a free service that's included in their membership to the library. I think we'll also be adding a bolder library logo towards the bottom of the bookmark, again, just so people realize, oh, this is a service from the library. They're not trying to sell me a tutoring service. So some of the feedback that I get great feedback on the one-on-one math tutoring. People seem to really find that useful. I personally, as a parent, love the math videos. I can just pull up something quickly on how to do something that my 6th grader is struggling with. And as everyone has kind of referred to already, our immigrant community finds this service very useful. One unique way that I think it really helps parents is that a lot of parents tell me that they don't feel like they can help their students, their children with writing. A lot of immigrant families that don't have an adult at home who's really proficient in English can't help with that. And they are so thankful to hear about the essay review service.
Thanks. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to have Martha Hess talk about new immigrants as a target audience and her work with the ESL and citizenship classes.
The local community adult education department runs our ESL and citizenship classes, and there are classes at the library in the morning and at the high school in the evening. The classes are free and they're very popular and always fill up very quickly. In the spring of 2018, we visited both the daytime and evening classes. We discussed the ways the library can help ESL and citizenship students outside of the classroom. We told them about our reference service and career counseling program and showed them our databases and online learning platforms on our website. And they were very interested in Tutor.com. The instructors in particular thought it would be a great resource for reinforcing what the students learn in class. So students can use Tutor.com to practice at home during their breaks, holidays, and vacations, and especially over the summer vacation. Students in these classes commit to a 9 to 12-month journey to learn English and learn how to become citizens. And some continue beyond that, so they're very dedicated students. And we show our appreciation for what they accomplish by attending their graduation ceremony and banquet here at the library. This year, the students surprised us by making a poster with photos and handouts from our visits. So this year, we will be visiting the classes in the fall and highlight Tutor.com, demonstrate how to use it, and provide some handouts to help the students and instructors use it on their own. This next slide.
Next slide.
Shows the brochure that was made by our public relations specialist, and this is something that we can give out to the classes and also bring to places outside of the library just to introduce the service to people and what it can provide for them in the way of ESL and citizenship tutoring.
Okay, thank you, Martha. I just want to make one comment. I was with Martha and I watched her present to our citizenship class at the high school, and I was extremely impressed. And after we spoke, one of the mothers came up to me and said, and it was a new immigrant mother, she said, you know, this is a great service for my son. He's in 10th grade and he's embarrassed to ask the teacher for help. And I think maybe it's a cultural thing, being new in this country, maybe a value thing with new immigrants that, you know, they're less forward, you're less confident about coming forward and showing that maybe they need assistance and don't understand something. So again, reaching out to our new immigrant community with this service is great. And I would never have even known that if Martha hadn't done this citizenship class. And we found that out.
The parents.
Next slide, please. Okay, social media for your target audiences. As I said, Chris is not here, but we are very lucky that we have a marketing coordinator, Chris Barnes. Chris takes a lot of things that are made, like those bookmarks that Suzanne showed you. Those are actually made by Tutor.com for us. However, they can send you, Tutor.com can send you editable versions, and we're actually going to be changing some of them to put the word free in, and we're going to put our library logo in. But that's a real important part of like how we communicate. And Chris is always doing customized flyers for us. He does also the full menu of social media posts. And here you can see one. This is one that I actually really liked. It's about Tutor.com helping people with resumes and cover letters. And I think it's important because it actually markets Tutor.com to people that are looking for jobs. And our new immigrants is a big part of the people in our community that are looking for work. And of course, Tutor.com will help people critique and write resumes. So it's a really good service. Next slide, please. Chris had told me to tell you that his biggest tip to share is that he does post throughout the year. You know, you think Tutor.com, you know, well, the school year's winding down, people don't really have need for it anymore. Well, that's really not true, because Tutor.com becomes really important when it gets close to finals and midterms. And as Martha said, even in the summer for our citizenship classes, the instructor said that she really wanted the students to be able to practice over the summer. So here's a screenshot of something that Chris had done on social media about finish the school year strong with Tutor.com. You can sign up for free online tutoring help with your East Brunswick Library card, and then he tells you how to get started. So again, his biggest tip was to make sure you schedule the post close to your school academic calendar. Don't set it off too far, close so that people pick up on it, and events like midterms, finals, and also breaks from school. Next slide, please. One of the things that I really like about Tutor.com, because I always track the usage of all of our databases, is that they do generate great reports. And I gave some screenshots here of some of the reports that were generated for East Brunswick. What we got out of these reports is that the majority of our users are aggregated in the 10th grade, 6th grade, and 5th grade. It seems as if Algebra 2, Chemistry, middle school math, and basic science are the key areas where people are most interested. It's interesting about the 5th grade. Another thing about new immigrants is that we see in East Brunswick is that East Brunswick 5th grade is actually elementary school, but it is not uncommon in East Brunswick to see 5th graders doing pre-algebra, parents taking them to the library for books to learn pre-algebra. So that's why Tutor.com is a great service for them, in addition to the writing skills, because many of their parents don't speak English or have minimal knowledge of English. So these reports are really good. You can take these reports, you can fine-tune your audience, you can really get to see who's using your service so that you make sure that when you go out to your high school and middle school, you have tons of bookmarks, especially for your 10th graders and for your 6th and 5th graders. And it's also, as a librarian, it's a great collection development tool, because you can see some of the subject areas that are very popular and where people need most help. So that is extremely commendable. Next slide, please. Next slide. And this is Georgie. I knew he'd make an appearance. But that is our story in a nutshell about our success, about how we reached out to our new immigrant communities. I hope that you all will find ways to help the new Americans in your own communities, and you can make your own story, find ways to help them, because really by offering unique services like Tutor.com, you're really working to bring equitable education to people who are most in need, who are most vulnerable, and people who are so fiercely passionate about becoming part of the fabric of our country. And really, it's incumbent on us as librarians to be key players and to help our new immigrants make that first step. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Susan.
All right. Thank you, Karen and team. That was wonderful. Some of the statistics you shared in the beginning just surprised the heck out of me, especially in terms of the number of languages spoken within the schools from the students there. So at this point in time, I want to cover a couple different things. First of all, if you have any questions for the East Brunswick Public Library staff regarding their outreach or serving the community, even if it does not have to do with Tutor.com, please feel free to enter those into the question box at this point in time. And as we're waiting to see if questions come in, I'd like to go back and revisit just a couple things to show you. We have a mix of librarians on the line today, on the webinar today. Some are already offering Tutor.com to their communities, and others are considering doing so. And so I really want to focus on the amount of support that Tutor.com does help or does provide in terms of marketing and outreach, as Karen and her team have been speaking about. And so for those of you that are current Tutor.com partners and offering this, I want to make sure that you are aware of the Client Resource Center. As we went through the presentation, we pointed out several different types of tools that you can use to promote, and you will find all of those on our Client Resource Center. So if you just go to tutor.com/clientcarelib, that is going to give you all different kinds of tools. Of course, you can still get creative and make your own if you have a particular situation that you need to promote for, but we also have several different tools here. One of the things that they showed us was the video. And so you guys can download the video file or even link to it. And we have a short version and a longer version, practice classroom. We've even pre-built PowerPoints. So when you do go out to those back to school nights, as was mentioned, you don't have to reinvent the wheel or come up with your own thing. We actually have put it all together for you and even added a script to those presentations. In addition, you have several different types of posters and flyers on here, things to hand out, those bookmarks and brochures, as well as how to use handouts. And for parents, especially, I would assume for immigrant parents, it is very important to highlight the benefits and also highlight the safety aspects of Tutor.com. And so we have the top 10 things parents and teachers should know about Tutor.com on the Resource Center. Then I have to show you my favorite part of all, and that is the social media page. This is where you can come to get all different kinds of images that you can use on social media. So again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, maybe just add a blurb to them. But every month we try to post new images on this page that are relevant to the upcoming time of year. So of course now we have fall. If you're promoting to places like community colleges, you may want to use the midterm ones as well. This is also a time of year when students really start to show that stress and the burden of their academics staying on them. So it's always great to offer some encouragement. And then we're fun, so we have to throw some fun in there for you as well. And we like to do promotions around the holidays. My favorite, because it was always my favorite thing to find, is that Tutor.com is like finding the one house that always gives out big candy bars on trick or treat night. Yep. Yeah. So, so you guys, if you're currently offering Tutor.com and you're just not feeling creative, but you know you need to get a post out there on Instagram or Facebook, and we're even starting to add smaller ones now so they look better on Twitter, because we're seeing a lot of activity there. Visit this site. And if you just really truly don't know what to do, I'm going to pull over sort of a weird looking window, and this is an internal tool I use, but it's the best way that I can show you. Each month, we do send out the Tutor.com monthly bookmark. If you do not currently receive this, please let us know. We'd love to get you on the mailing list or make sure that you're not on a do not email list so that you can receive it, because we're going to feed you exactly what you need to use in order to promote the service based on the time of year. And so we'll give you a newsletter article, a theme to follow, suggested social media posts, as well as the suggested tools from the Resource Center. And you'll get to see any other opportunities for these great thought leader webinar presentations that we provide. All right, so for those of you that may be considering Tutor.com, I want to invite you to visit our main website, and you'll probably also hear from us with a follow-up call or email as well. But to learn a little bit more about our service itself, I invite you to visit Tutor.com/libraries. And here you can see how we can help. And you've also just heard it from the East Brunswick staff, as well as learning a little bit more about us. And you can go ahead and request information from there, or feel free to email us directly. Now, I do see that some questions came in. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up the question box. Joanne or Karen, is that you?
No, it's Joanne. I was going to ask the question. Hi. Karen, we have a question that came in for you.
Okay.
How did you get the information out to the community about your service, considering the various languages and cultures that you are serving?
That's information in multilingual languages is always a challenge. And we don't have Tutor.com information in other languages. It would be really difficult to do that. What we do find, and this is like a recurrent observation, is that children of immigrant parents speak English. They speak English really well. They come here, and and I know that Suzanne may want to chime in here a little bit about her observations, but the kids, do you have anything to say, Suzanne?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. We do have a lot of times we have the 11-year-old kind of serving as a translator for the parent. It's, you know, it's unfortunate that's the way it works, but it's kind of the best we can do under the current circumstances. I also find that it really helps to show somebody one-on-one how this works. So, you know, even in, you know, in a situation where the parent and I can't really communicate very well through words, if I show them on the screen what to do and the child is there, we're able to cover enough of it that I think they, you know, they get the hang of it.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
A little follow-up to that same question. Can you name a couple of the specific methods that you did use to reach the patrons, your methods of promotion?
So, is that for Suzanne or for me?
Either one, whichever one of you would take that.
Actually, the ways that we use many different ways. One, obviously, back to school night is a big one, but we do a really good job of getting the word out, using our librarians really as people to market. I mean, I cannot state enough how librarians have to know what resources your library has. And I've been to libraries where librarians didn't know what the databases were held by their library. It's really important because they're the ones that spread the word. And if a parent comes in and says to Suzanne in the Youth Services Department, you know, can you find me a tutor? And if you can see it's a new immigrant, Suzanne can immediately recommend and demonstrate Tutor.com.
I will say we get that question all the time. I mean, we get that question probably at least once a day, you know, how can I find a tutor for my child? So this is the answer to that question.
Yeah. It's really word of mouth too. And I think once the one teen knows about Tutor.com, they tell their friends, and it just goes on from there.
Great, thank you.
And you know, again, to other libraries that are considering going, you know, leaving the nest, make sure you get to know your elementary, middle school, and high school librarians. You know, go out to lunch with them, and we do that. All three of us do that periodically. We work in tandem. we work hand in hand. We don't buy duplicates. We make sure they always know what we're buying. Our focus is different than theirs. Our focus is we buy for the community at large. We buy for not just the public schools, for the private schools. We have in East Brunswick, we have Jewish schools. We have a Muslim school. We have a Coptic Christian school. So we buy for the community at large. So, you know, make sure that they know, everybody knows exactly where they can get that kind of information.
And when it comes to hand selling something like this, I think it's so important for the staff to really have tested out Tutor.com so they can demonstrate it well. They should all have an account they can log into to show parents how it works. Helps a lot at our desk.
Oh, and that's a very good point as well. And I am going to bring up back on that Client Resource Center. We have many different training opportunities available for staff. And so if you don't feel comfortable going out and promoting it and talking about it and sharing it with your patrons, just because you may not feel like you're comfortable with maybe the technology or such, join one of our training sessions. These are available. We have recorded options on here for you, but I will highlight exactly what they say in terms of staff being your #1 promoters. They are your loudest voice in sharing the service, as well as the importance of the partnership with schools. Time and time again, we see that school and public library partnership just taking the service that you provide to your community up at least 3 levels. So.
Yeah, like I said, the high school will put it in anything we want. We'll just email them and they'll put it in the newsletter to the teachers, or they'll put it in the virtual packets that go home to the parents. So that partnership cannot, we cannot really express enough how important it is to really work closely in tandem with your public and also your homeschoolers. I mean, and homeschoolers that may need to have this service as well.
Yeah, I agree. We did get another question in, and I wanted to bring this up to the group's attention just so you guys know. We were asked whether or not the bookmarks that were shown during the presentation are available. And of course, they are here on the Tutor.com Client Resource Center under handouts. And then we were also asked whether we have materials in Spanish for promoting the service. And so we do have those Spanish promotional materials. I have to say the ones that I feel and see are used the most are the top 10 things parents should know. Putting it in the native language for the parents is extremely important and helps them feel much more comfortable with the service. The students still tend to go to the English side of things, but at least being able to provide the information in the Spanish language is quite helpful.
That sounds good.
Right.
And I just want to say too that I think as our communities grow in diversity and immigrant populations, that more and more immigrants are going to be turning to the libraries for resources, for low cost or free resources. So I think that we're really just scratching the surface of the potential of Tutor.com to serve that cohort of new immigrants. Mm-hmm. Both through children from elementary school all the way up through Martha talking about the ESL and citizenship classes. There's tremendous potential that's barely been tapped.
Thank you.
We have a couple other questions that just came in, Karen. Okay. One of them is about when you decided, I know way back in the first slides of the webinar, you mentioned choosing Tutor.com and some of the things that went into your choice for Tutor.com. At that time, were you also looking at other online tutoring services? And if you were, what were some things that led to you going with Tutor.com, or some factors that led to that decision?
Actually, I have not looked at other tutoring services because I knew Tutor.com, but it has a name out there, and I'm really careful about who we select, and I didn't want to pick any kind of service that could just say they can do it, because I know, you know, the affiliation with Princeton Review, and it lends a lot of gravitas and credibility to the service when parents hear that and they know that, and we tell them, you know, we mentioned the Princeton Review name. So the answer is no, I didn't look at any other services when we did choose to do Tutor.com. But I can tell you, as a resident of East Brunswick for 29 years, and as a mother of a child that went through the East Brunswick school system, and as the mother of a child who, at that time, we didn't have Tutor.com. My son is now 25, and who sent him to an expensive tutoring service. I can really appreciate how parents, sometimes your kid's stuck on a homework question, and it's late at night, and you just don't know how to do it. The math gets harder and harder as they progress through. I mean, my husband's an engineer, and even he was like, by high school, it's like, wow, you know. So there really is a need for this as a parent. Yeah. As a somewhat frustrated parent at times. So, and I'm sure people can relate to that. It is such a nice thing to have, to be able to drop off an essay for someone whose first language is not English, and have someone proof it and get back to them. Or if you're stuck on a chemistry problem or a math problem, and you know that the tutors are vetted, they're high quality. I know that, Susan, did you want to talk a little bit about how you vet your tutors? Because I know Joanne had explained that to me, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that opening, Karen. So Tutor.com, we receive, believe it or not, over 100,000 applications every single year from prospective tutors. And only about 1.5% of those applicants are actually able to become qualified for us. We do have a set of minimum requirements, and those are things like social security number, legal to work in U.S., blah, 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 the basics, of course. But really the hardest part of the evaluation period and application process would be our subject matter exams. So regardless of what your educational or professional credentials are, if you want to be a Tutor.com tutor, you need to be able to pass our exams and show us that you truly do know the subject upside down and sideways. And that exam, if you pass a calculus exam and you want to tutor algebra, you still have to pass the algebra exam because just knowing the material is not quite enough. You also have to know how it's taught and how to explain it, methods that are used and things like that. So we put all of our applicants through these extensive subject matter exams, and by the time we get through them, only 7,000 of that original 100,000 have made it through the subject matter exams. And after that, we move into preparing them for life online as an online tutor. And having started as a tutor myself 15 years ago with Tutor.com, I can tell you it is quite different, a different experience. You have to be able to use the technology. You have to be able to show emotion through the written word and instant messaging. You have to be able to have your finger on the pulse of the student throughout the entire session to really gauge whether they're following and understanding you. And so we prepare our applicants for life as a Tutor.com tutor with manuals and videos and all different kinds of support resources. And when they've had time to go through that, we put them through a mock session. And that mock session is just like their interview, except they are connecting as a tutor and we as a student, and we're checking on the fly. Just as it would be in real time. They have to walk us through a session on a problem for which they did not have time to prepare. And we check for communication, and we check for educational approach and content knowledge, heck, even typing speed. And we're also checking internet connections because we want to make sure that they're able to provide a positive experience for every student with whom they connect. If they can make it through the mock session, and about 25% of them that get to that point actually can make it to the mock session. So That whittles us down to what, 1,750 applicants. If they can make it through that, then we'll go ahead and put them through an extensive background check. And we have a 7-year criminal history background check, federal, state, and local level. That includes a sex offenders list, a social security number trace, as well as education verification. And thankfully, the majority of them that make it there are able to pass a background check. About 81% get through. And so that leaves us with about 1,500 applicants out of that original 100,000 that are considered qualified to be a Tutor.com tutor. And the quality control continues beyond that, of course, with our mentoring system and 5 to 6 different quality control systems we have running in the background at all times. And so it really does come down to 2 things for us: safety of the student and tutor in the classroom, and educational experience for the student. They need to be learning and not just getting the answers. All right.
Okay.
All righty. Other questions coming through. Just we're checking the box here. We have a question regarding Tutor.com printing out bookmarks. Tutor.com does supply the links to the bookmarks on our Client Resource Center, serving over 2,300 public library locations across the state. Does make it logistically difficult for us to be able to provide the printed bookmarks to every single one of our library partners. And that is why we do provide those on the website for you. However, also, if you're brand new, and Karen, I'm sure will attest to this, you will receive a starter package for your for getting the word out of flyers and bookmarks and such. So, but we wouldn't be able to handle the demand if we were printing for all of the libraries out there.
Susan, could you go back to the slides? There was one slide that said, get creative, make your own flyers. It had the double picture of the citizenship flyer.
Yep, let me hit,
I wanted to just talk about that because that's something that we started doing in East Brunswick, and it's a really, it's one of those good ideas that we want to share. You take a flyer and you make, instead of wasting a lot of paper, if you're going to make your own, because, like you said, I mean, sometimes libraries will need to make their own flyers, or they'll want to, or they'll run short and they'll need to. This is something that Chris came up with, this idea of making these little 5x7 flyers, and then we cut them in half and we put them all over the library. We take them to our outreach events, and they're just, people like it. They're not big and bulky, and it's just a nice way to save money on paper and printing costs. And again, something people can just tack on their bulletin board, or yeah, and it seems to work out really nice. So Martha's using these for our citizenship classes, but something again, other libraries might want to do this for Tutor.com and any other library services that you have. But they're 5x7 flyers are a cheap and easy way to spread the word.
Yep. Another cheap and easy way actually is we have a template on here under handout for program cards. These are like little business cards. And so we actually set up a template for you to use a printer. You can get 250 program cards from Vistaprint, and not that I'm not promoting them, or it's just who we use. So I know you can get it for under $10 when they're running one of their sales. So 250 cards, if you're, for example, in September doing library card sign up month, every new library card you hand out a program card with it as well. So there are definitely cost-effective methods for promoting in here. All right, if you guys don't mind, we do have one other question that's actually service related that I think is pretty important to many folks here. We have the question as to whether or not our math teachers are aligned with Common Core. Yes, they are. And the reason I can say that, even though every state truly does have their own standards, is that our tutors individualize every single session for that student's needs. So we're not creating curriculum. We're not coming up with lesson plans. We are learning from the student what their question is, what their homework assignment is, and what they're stuck on with it. And so from Tutor.com's perspective, we get asked this a lot. Are you aligned with the Common Core? If it is a homework problem that the teacher has assigned, and that particular teacher is teaching to the Common Core, then we are helping the student reach the achievements that are defined by the Common Core standards. Because Common Core is not a curriculum. It's just a set of standards that students need to reach by the end of each grade level. And so if the work the teachers are giving them in order to reach those standards, if the teacher is giving it to them, we have to assume that it is in line with what they need to reach by the end of the year. And can we do all the funky new math? Absolutely, if that's what you really want to know. I personally can't, but our tutors can.
Wow.
All right. Joanne, did you see any more questions in the list that I may have missed that could be beneficial to others?
No, I think that covers most of them and everything that came in.
Okay, great. Karen, do you have anything else, or anyone on your team, Suzanne, Jess, Martha, any last minute thoughts you'd like to share?
Just feel free to always call on us. I mean, like I said, we really feel it's important for us to give back as library professionals. If any library would like to call us, Susan, will the slides be available to everybody?
Yes, if they were not able to download in the handout, then we'll go ahead and send those out.
Okay.
Also, a recording of the session will go out from a GoToWebinar follow-up email, and as long as it archives and uploads in a timely manner, you guys should receive that sometime this evening within the next couple hours. So you'll have a recording of it as well.
All right, great. So please, any libraries, feel free to call us. We're always happy to mentor and to help other libraries.
All right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. And everyone, thanks for joining us, and have a fantastic day.